A tax office in the Caliphate. IS officials count the revenue taken from intimidated citizens. Their accounting is meticulous and bureaucratic through and through. This is a scene of IS propaganda. This woman recently escaped to a German refugee center with her family. A few weeks ago, they were still living in the so-called Caliphate. She has experienced this IS extortion firsthand.
كل شيء هاي ماشي هاي دراجة نارية شو بدك بالدراجة السيارة المي كهرباء تليفون شو بدي احكي لك كمان
قصاب
لحتى تدفع
الا يختم لك عليا الا عليا ختم الدولة الإسلامية تصور يا رعاك الله.
The refugees in this center describe how IS has taken everything from them through taxes, expropriation, robbery and extortion. Those who do not comply are killed.
يعني إذا عنده فلوس بالبيت يطب عليه للبيت طب مجهولين يعني يغطين وجههم مجهولين ياخذ الفلوس اللي عنده ويطلع أو إذا عنده أملاك ياخذ أملاكه ويطلع.
هني وقت الإجوا حشاك جربانين بس عنا اغتنوا.
Tax revenues are becoming increasingly important for IS, explains Der Spiegel reporter Christopher Reuter. He has analysed the structure of IS for years, trying to work out how the Caliphate is organised and how they obtain their money.
Vermutlich die größte Einnahmequelle kann man von außen überhaupt nicht quantifizieren. Das sind nämlich die ungefähr 8 Millionen Menschen, die unter der hermetischen Kontrolle des IS leben, in Syrien, im Irak, und die ausgepresst werden bis zum letzten. Es gibt die 5%ige Zakatsteuer, aber darüber hinaus werden immer wieder neue Abgaben erhoben für bestimmte Geschäftszweige, für den Import von irgendwelchen Gütern, wie vor einigen Monaten tiefgefrorenes Fleisch auf einmal besteuert wurde.
Reuter explains how IS tax collectors work according to a plan, and he reveals a diagram to demonstrate the extent of the statewide organization.
Was man hier sieht, ist die Gesamtverwaltungsstruktur des IS mit den einzelnen Abteilungen für Medizin, Erziehung, für all die zivilen Dinge. Und wenn man das mal ein bisschen aufzieht, dann sieht man hier in der Finanzverwaltung gab es 2 Punkte. Das eine ist das Rechnungswesen und das andere ist extra nochmal handschriftlich drunter gesetzt worden. Hier steht Ranima, Beute.
Extortion is a fundamental part of the IS system, and their actions legitimize the pseudo-state. IS officials inspect and check everything, and residents must pay taxes for almost everything. A tax receipt issued by IS. The recipient of this receipt had to pay up for his non-Muslimness. IS is becoming increasingly bureaucratic. These propaganda images show a receipt being issued for every small transaction. These are taken to the tax office where they are handled and logged meticulously. This feeds their cash register. State financing through taxes is becoming increasingly important, confirms terrorism expert Loretta Napoleoni. She argues IS is more professionally organised than the West realises.
The biggest mistake that the West is doing today is the same that it's been doing right from the beginning. The fact that he wants to deny that it is a state. So it's acting as a state, it's presenting itself to the world as a state, and it is the beginning of a sort of revolution.
IS controls an area comparable in size to the UK, including the cities of Mosul and Raqqa. Around 8 million people live under their control. It is unclear how much money the Caliphate takes from its inhabitants. There are, however, concrete figures from one region, Deir ez-Zor, a particularly oil-rich region. These papers show how IS obtains its money here. British researcher Ayman al-Tamimi has leaked numerous official IS papers from Syria. He lives in Assad, Syria, and has contacts in the so-called Caliphate. Through them, he has obtained IS financial documents. Most of the money comes not from the sale of oil, says Tamimi, but through expropriations.
A variety of different things can be confiscated, like houses, cars, trucks, quantities of cigarettes, land, cattle even.
The budget papers from Deir ez-Zor show the financial breakdown in detail. Only 27.7% of IS's income is through the sale of oil and gas, 3.9% comes from electricity, 23.7% from taxes. The majority, 44.7%, comes from expropriation, almost half of their budget. Only a few weeks ago, these refugees were in Deir ez-Zor. Today they are looking over the papers leaked by Tamimi. They immediately know what they are about and explain how these expropriations work.
ويكتب على البيت وقف للدولة الإسلامية استولى ما في مو بكيفه نزل البيت على غصب.
Another refugee, afraid of jeopardizing his relatives, agrees to speak anonymously. IS chose their targets randomly, he says, looking at the papers. Random, but in accordance with the rules of the Caliphate.
بيلاقوا بسيارته كروز دخان بتروح السيارة وهو بينسجن.
Der IS betreibt am Ende eine Beuteökonomie. Er produziert nicht so viel, dass er auf Dauer sich finanzieren könnte aus dem, was er in dem eroberten Gebiet herstellt. Aber für eine Weile funktioniert das Auspressen der Bevölkerung, dann muss man neue Gebiete erobern.
Experts disagree over how long IS can continue running the Caliphate in this way. The fact is, the exploitation is being conducted in a highly bureaucratic manner. IS create their own statewide structures, their own law and order. These are further propaganda images.
This is the first time that we see a jihadist organization really running a state in a very modern fashion. They haven't made the mistake of other organizations like, the PLO, for example, where, was riddled with corruption, or the Taliban, who de facto were an occupying power. What they're trying to do here is to achieve the consensus of the population through social works, but also through a smooth running of the everyday life inside the Caliphate.
As each day passes, IS is becoming more like a legitimate state. This is why experts like Loretta are so convinced that the bombing of oil infrastructure will do little to halt this growth. The Caliphate now has more than 8 million subjects, and each one of them is being forced to fill the war chest.